Hello viewers, over the last couple of weeks I have of course been competing in the Manufacturers Cup for AMG. As you can probably tell by these scores, the results have been somewhat mixed. We turn up here to round number 5 at Sardinia with hope of restoring a good amount of points for our championship. There's only 6 rounds in the championship, 5 are going to count, so I can't afford to have another bad one. This one is one of those races with a very long qualifying session, 18 minutes to be precise. My first lap, a 41.3, 41.5. The next one, a 41.3 again. However, I knew around this very tricky circuit that I could get into the 40s on a good lap. Not quite there, 41.2. Now, it was all about being very committed around this Sardinia Reverse A track. Not a track we see too often in the game, but you know what? The more I drove it, the more confidence I got with this Nissan GT-R right behind me on this qualifying lap. Mercedes felt pretty solid around here, I must say. And after hooking up this somewhat better lap compared to the others, I was able to finally produce a 40.9. Now, this lobby was incredibly close. As I come up to the line for my final lap in this long qualifying session, not quite enough, another 40.9, but slightly slower, as we can see there. And that ultimately put me 7th. Look at this qualifying order, incredibly close, only 3 and a bit tenths between myself and pole position. Well, we start from 7th here for my first attempt at round number 5. My best score so far in this championship was the first race, where we had the 500 IQ moment to go for an alternative strategy around the Nürburgring. And that gained me 307 points. We're looking here to try to get at least, let's say, high 200s, as anything approaching 300 I think is pretty good for me at the moment. Now, on this opening lap, I got somewhat dropped by the group in front. You see the Ferrari in front just beginning to pull away slightly. I wasn't very good through the final sequence of corners especially. As we come through here, the BMW in front is going to go very wide into the wall. That first corner is so dangerous. And here we kind of send in a half-hearted move, and it kind of comes off, but it wasn't not the cleanest move that you've ever seen. But we're going to continue, albeit no penalty, no damage, but with a big gap now to the Ferrari in front. So position gained, however cleanly or uncleanly that was. We're going to push forward on lap 3 now, trying to see what will happen up in front. And here's what's happening with second and third. The BMW defending here, a bit of contact between the two of them, which results in the white BMW there being spun out and ending up in the wall. So up into 5th place. So solid progress, I suppose, as we haven't really done too much. But ended up with 2 positions gained so far. This is lap 5, just beginning to pull clear of the cars behind, so in a little bit of my own no man's land, if you like, but just gaining on the Ferrari here, which makes a little bit of a mistake there through the first sector. And I must say, this track was super tricky, that first sector especially. You have to really get very confident with the walls, but you run the risk, of course, of hitting them, which is a suboptimal strategy. This was about as close as I got to an overtaking opportunity. Not really close enough to properly go for it. Would have been dive bomb of the century if it had worked. And by lap 8, you can see here the Nissan GT-R had managed to catch up with the leader, putting in some really solid lap times. However, they're about to fall victim to the curb, as you can see here. Drifting right onto the gravel, spinning out into the wall on the opposite side. Now I'm about to gain another position up into 4th with a very healthy chance here of even going for 3rd. And so, with very close qualifying, which didn't quite give me the result I wanted, 7th was not too bad given I've been qualifying 10th or worse for the most part so far this season. I was quite happy with it. But we can go for 3rd position here. As we look around the outside, looking for the position on the way in, the Ferrari covers it off, and the space does not quite open up. But we're still very close. Can we go for another opportunity here into the left-hander? I'm going to look for it. But again, it's going to really require quite a lot to get the overtake done, especially with the next corner being a right-hander. So it doesn't quite work out. And all that happens is we lose a bit of time and allow the car behind to catch up. Now, this was a really good performance, I think, up until this point, because I'm about to make a calamitous error here on the final lap, 12 of 12. Turning in a little bit too early, literally hitting the apex, which you don't want to do, of course. Barrier has been contacted. We lose one position, we have damage, and into the hairpin here, we're going to get overtaken by the Nissan GTR as well. And so just surrendering 2 positions there when 3rd place was possible, I'm now in 6th, and that is quite painful. As we hurtle down the hill, I now also have the McLaren in close contact. This McLaren started in front of me. We battled early on, and now we have been reunited here on the final lap. And I have to do my job in defence to try to keep him behind. He actually tries the move around the outside here. And so we're partly alongside into this right-hander. I give him the space on the right-hand side. There's a bit of contact, but he bails out of it. And we're about to settle in to a 6th place. It's a run to the line. I do just enough, though, to finish in P6. It was a decent race until the last lap. In the end, though, it netted me a solid 248 points. Now, viewers, have you ever thought of me as a truck driver? Probably not. Well, I got the chance to become a truck driver recently when Scania invited me to compete in the Master the Road tournament. Now, Jimmy Broadbent and I are usually on the same team, but this time around we were very much against each other in order to prove who is the better and more efficient truck driver. Now, I've got to say, Scania threw pretty much everything at us, quite literally. And this was some of the most fun I've had behind the wheel in any vehicle. Now look, the results were really close. It was really good fun between the 2 of us. I linked the series in the description below, so please do go and take a look. And thank you to Scania for trusting me behind the wheel of one of their trucks. Yes, thank you so much to Scania. We're going to jump back to Mercedes though for race number 2. Now 248 points is not too bad, but I think I can do better here. As you see, here are the points totals for this race, slightly higher than the previous one. So I need to finish 6th or better to get a higher score. Now in this qualifying, it was largely the same kind of thing, where I set a good lap, it was very close, and at this point I'm 6/10 away from pole, but that's only good enough for 13th. That kind of shows you how close it is. Let's take a look at my best lap. The first corner, as you can see, really a fast and fearsome corner. You've got to be very brave and committed. It requires a small lift, but you've got to carry as much speed as possible. And then this corner is characterised by a couple of these slower corners at turn 2. This one is where we crashed in the previous race, hitting the apex, but that's a nice amount of speed carry through there. And then we're entering a very technical section here. This corner, obviously a very curved braking zone. As we get a nice run through, I think that one's all about sacrificing the entry for a better exit, especially as you're leading out onto this lengthy straight section. And then we've got a long right-hander, being patient mid-corner before getting back on the power on the exit. Let's see what the lap time is so far. 2/10 up on a 41.1. We could definitely get into the 40s here. Now, for reference, in the first race I did a 1 minute 40.9. However, I felt like I could go a couple of tenths quicker with a fully connected lap. And that is what this is looking like it's going to be as we run through the final sequence of corners, making the most of the camber there on the final apex. On the run up to the line, it is going to be an improvement. It's going to be a 140.7, nearly a 4/10 improvement, and that puts me 7th. But look at that, 0.23 away from pole. That shows you how close this is. 2/10, and I could be on pole position. On the line there at the last lap, not able to improve my lap. Ultimately finishing 0.37 away from pole, but remaining in 7th place. So 7th on the grid once again. Now obviously in the last race, moving up to 4th, almost battling for 3rd. And had I finished there, that would have been a good point score. So we're going to aim again to try and move forward, gain as many positions as we can. I felt as though the standard of this lobby was higher. I know I'm in the same position on the grid, but I did get a faster lap. So I felt like everyone in this race was slightly faster than the first one, and so this would presumably be a more difficult race. But let's take a look. It did actually turn out to be an incredible race, and one I did enjoy. But let's take a look. The two cars in front already beginning to battle, the McLaren and the GTR. And you see the McLaren up the inside onto the back straight. And they're both fighting for the position here quite hard. As we head into the braking zone at the bottom of the hill, the McLaren retakes the position. So a lot of fighting between the two of them, really trying to establish the order quite early. GTR looking for the inside. McLaren does not give him the space, but he goes around the outside instead. And it's a really good overtake. And this is, I mean, it looks spectacular. Great racing between the two of them, we've got to say, as they once more start defending into the final sequence. All this is doing, though, is allowing the top four to pull away. So the gap now between 5th and 4th is just opening up. And that's going to take a while to kind of wind back down again. Here we go then, on the exit, onto the main straight, end of lap 1, right into the wheel tracks of the McLaren, practically pushing this guy up the straight. Coming into turn 1, he's going to make a bit of a mistake here. Just drift a little bit wide. The space just opens up. Fortunately enough for the McLaren, he doesn't go flying into the wall on the outside and actually gets overtaken by the Lexus on the way out. He's going to sneak back up the inside, though, on the exit with a bit of contact and retake the position. And this is good for me as they go in here side by side. They're just going to surrender a little bit of time, and that just allows me slightly to pull away. But you can see now the damage is somewhat done, as we now have a 1.3 second gap to the car in front. And it just shows you, a couple of corners in a row where you're fighting or defending or something like that, and you just open up that gap so quickly, and it's going to take a very long time now to reel this gap back in. This was lap 4. My third lap was a 41.4, which was a really good race pace actually, and almost the fastest lap of the race. So we're going in the right direction. It's just about doing this enough consistently in a 12-lap race. Putting together a string of 3 or 4 or 5 good laps in a row. And I must say that the cars in front were just a little bit quicker, I think. They had a couple of tenths on me. But the thing in my favour was that they were fighting, and they were in very close contention. As you can see, there was a Mercedes actually in second. So it did show me the the Mercedes can be driven at good speed. As we come through here, that is not a good speed. The Mercedes actually seen spinning and losing second place. That guy was in second place, dropping all the way down to 7th or 8th in one fell swoop.
Discontent in the pack in front.
And so the pattern of this race is actually very remarkably similar to the first one.
The Mercedes,
qualifying and starting
Mercedes
7th,
now,
and then just capitalising on mistakes from the cars in front. And sometimes you've got to do that. You're not always as quick as the guys in front of you, but if you can just stay in a consistent spot and stay close enough, then you can capitalise when they start fighting and making mistakes. And that seems to be what's happening here, as the Supra has dropped down to 4th now, and we're very much in the slipstream, only 4 tenths behind. So we're doing just enough here to remain in contact with these guys. The leader is long gone. This Porsche in the front, incredibly quick, and we're not anywhere near that guy's pace. But 2nd, 3rd and 4th here, there's definitely a chance of trying to get past some of these guys, as we're right in the wheel tracks now of the Toyota Supra, as we are halfway into the race, near enough now. Trying to get a good exit here out of this corner is fairly crucial for any overtake attempt, and we're really close here, less than 2 tenths behind the Supra. As we head down the hill, it's really about trying to engineer some space, and I want to really get to the right-hand side, as there's a kink to the left, but then the right-hander is in my favour. We go late on the brakes, up the inside. Now he's fully alongside, so we're going to have to give him space on the left, right up against the wall. As we head into this corner here, we saw it earlier on, the Nissan GTR going around the outside of the McLaren, and I'm not quite able to repeat that move, and so we have to settle in behind and remain in 5th for the time being. Although look at that, very much under pressure now from the McLaren behind, and then the Lexus behind him, with of course the Mercedes that was in 2nd, now in 8th. Let's not forget about that guy.
Oh my god.
As he is also in this train of cars.
It was a good attempt, I think.
So a good attempt there for 4th, didn't quite work out, but now on the back foot because sometimes you just got to go for the move. If it doesn't work, you're suddenly on the back foot, and that seems to be the case here. McLaren thankfully gives me a push and doesn't try to send up the inside into this corner, but he does get it slightly wrong, as you can see, losing a lot of time. And I think the McLaren wasn't totally comfortable through that corner. Big lunge from the Lexus behind. There was actually a bit of contact.
Felt a tap in the rear end
between myself and that Lexus. We thankfully get through unscathed with no damage and without getting smashed into the wall. I mean, that's always nice, isn't it? Well, we pull away for the time being. 7/10 to the good, but now 9/10 to the Super in front. And so we're slightly on the back foot at this point, not really able to attack, doing our best to remain in clear air. Look how close we were to the wall, really pushing. And the only thing in my favour, really, I suppose, is that the guys in front there, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, have been reunited in a little group. And as we look through the final corner, look at this, the GTR is going very defensive against each other. And I actually said on the stream here, please do something stupid, please do something stupid. And my wishes came exactly true a moment later.
Oh, they're all on each other. Come on, do something silly. Oh! Oh! What is he doing?
Now, I have no idea exactly what happened here, but, well, let's take a look. This is the Supra. Looking for the move on the left-hand side, the Nissan GTR completely turns across and ends up smashing into the wall. And, I mean, on board with the GTR, turning left on a straight. Now, apparently, their wheel disconnected at exactly that moment. All that matters for me, though, is that I've gained a position. And, I mean, it was quite hilarious to watch. But we're back up into 4th place. And again, remarkably similar to the first race, where we've moved from 7th to 4th. But this time, it's all about keeping it. Can we stay in this 4th place? I mean, 4th place would be a good result. I think the lobby standard is pretty high. And to be the lead Mercedes in this race, I think is a good achievement. There's 4 very quick Mercedes drivers in this race, or 3 others, and then me. Put it that way. And one of those Mercedes drivers is now right behind me. And this is not going to be an easy final lap. I've lost the toe from the cars in front. We go in there a little bit too hot, actually. I'm going to try and check up the Mercedes behind on the exit. And as we head on to the back straight for the final time, I'm very much aware that this is not going to be a smooth sailing experience from here to the end of the race. With this Mercedes right on my tail now, look at him go to the left-hand side. He's going to try it around the outside of this right-hander. As we go in, I'm going to keep the speed up, force him to back out. He doesn't want to back out. At the moment of contact there, I was 90% ahead, or 70% ahead. He didn't want to back out. So I think that was just about fair enough. Hard racing, good battling. He's going to have to settle for the position behind, doing just enough to keep 4th place. And we really had to fight for that one, I think, because that guy was incredibly fast and was definitely quicker than me. I did just enough, though, to defend the position. As we come through the final corner, this time we don't drop from 4th. We're going to just about keep it, do just enough to get a solid haul of points as we cross the line. Very happy with that one. It's going to be, in fact, 285 points, up 3 positions in that one. Clean race, 4th place, and there it is, 285 points. So a pretty good score there, guys. 285 points total now of 1204, and it's quite close here for AMG. I'm 8th in the region, but I think there's still potential to finish top 5 here, so we're going to go into the final round with a lot of hope there. But yeah, last round is at Suzuka on Saturday. Do join me for that. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time. Goodbye.